Direct Connection is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you. Live from Maryland Public Television, this is Direct Connection with Jeff Salkin.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for Direct Connection. Our focus tonight is Social Security. It's a program that 58 million Americans count on for their monthly benefits, but many people don't know if they're making the right moves to maximize their future income. Joining us tonight is Jeffrey Miller, partner in Social Security Choices. Dr. Miller, thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
You're a semi-retired college economics professor, and it was when you got near retirement age that you developed an interest in this.
Yes, actually, when I started to look at my own situation, I realized that I didn't know what to do, and I thought an economist should know what to do.
How hard was it for somebody with all of your experience and training to figure it out?
Well, actually, it took a considerable time because it turns out that the system is so complicated that there's really not a straightforward solution to the question of when to claim. In fact, we developed an algorithm because there's an excess of 600 options for a married couple. And we were well into the development of the algorithm before I was able to figure out what to do.
So tonight we'll cover that big question, when to file, some of the little tricks, the file and suspend and all that couples can do, and also some of the big mistakes that people make. But I was thinking about this in terms of, I don't know if you saw the H&R Block TV ads that ran during tax season, and they had a professorial kind of guy walking around a stadium saying that people who did their own taxes lost out on $1 billion of potential deductions every year. And I was thinking, if you could calculate that number for Social Security, what people are leaving on the table, it's probably a big number.
It's a very big number. In fact, you mentioned some special strategies like file and suspend and restricted application, which maybe we'll talk about later. There's been an estimate as to what the cost to Social Security would be if people learned about these strategies and followed them. And it turns out to be in the neighborhood of $10 billion a year. Okay, so if you do the standard congressional thing, we're talking about $100 billion over 10 years.
Well, let me be the first to say that that's outrageous, and maybe we can try to help out some people tonight. But let's start with the simple thing. As somebody is approaching their retirement age, when to start collecting. And the point is, you have a choice.
You do. Basically, the range of ages is 62 to 70. And people can claim as early as 62. There's a full retirement age in the middle of that span, between 62 and 70.
So that's like your normal your expected retirement age.
Right. It used to be 65, and I think people used to think, well, I'll retire at 65, in part because that age that Social Security had chosen became kind of a focal point, I think, for people. But actually, the range has been maintained as between 62 and 70, 65. Now, for people retiring at 66 is the full retirement age, clearly lies in the middle of that range. Every year you wait to claim between 62 and 70, your benefits will go up. And they'll go up for the rest of your life. Okay, so it's a very, very important decision to make. And the difference between claiming at 62 versus claiming at 70 is a difference of 76%. So your benefits, if you claim at 70 instead of at 62, would be 76% higher.
So how do we make this decision? For somebody who's in poor health, it's maybe not that difficult a choice, but and the flip side, maybe somebody who's in great health and from a family of great longevity, maybe they automatically wait if they can afford to do it. If you're in the middle, what do you do?
Well, it's clearly a decision that depends, as you pointed out, on how long you expect to live. And one of the things we've discovered is most people haven't thought about it very much, okay? Just to give you some flavor of how long people are likely to live, the normal lifespan today for a woman age 62 would be 86. And for a man, it would be 82. Okay, so you're looking at a lifespan up until that point. But there's another aspect to this, and that is that for a married couple, it turns out that there's about a 40 to 50% probability that one of the two members of that couple will live to age 92. Okay, and since Social Security has a survivor's benefit associated with it, so when the first member of the couple passes, then the other member gets the higher, generally speaking, gets the higher of the two benefits. So people should really be thinking about 92 as an age. It's just if you're in normal health, because one of you is likely to live that long.
So it's a kind of longevity insurance that provides an inflation adjustment, maybe not a perfect one, but something.
Yeah, it does. And sometimes I see some advertisements about, should you worry about income if you live a long time? Well, Social Security should be the basis of that, because it is an annuity that will pay you until you pass income, and then your spouse until they pass. So if you're worried about having income for the rest of your life, Social Security really is the basis of that financial arrangement that you should be thinking about.
Lots of phone calls for you. Let's talk to Bernie in Harford County. Bernie, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My question is, I presently receive Social Security. My wife retired from Social Security, and she is under the old pension plan, so she receives a civil service check. My question is, if I pass, does my wife get my Social Security?
Thanks for the phone call. And actually, let me rephrase that, because I've heard a similar question from a colleague, and that is a woman who retired from the Postal Service.
Right.
After a long career. Her husband, late husband, worked in the private sector. So she's getting her benefit. I'm not sure what it's made up of as a retiree, but for some reason can't get a spousal benefit on his old Social Security because she was a federal employee. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. This is where things can get pretty complicated, actually. If someone has not paid into the Social Security system because they were a federal employee, today it's more likely they're a local government employee of some kind and they didn't pay into the system. On the spousal benefit side, their benefit, they could get spousal benefit, but it's going to be reduced, okay? And the amount of the pension they're receiving from the government agency will be a factor into how much it's reduced. It's possible that if the pension they're receiving from their employer, say the federal government, is high enough, then they won't receive a spousal benefit at all. Okay.
Let's talk to Carol in Calvert County. Carol, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Yes. I was wondering if a person were to leave employment in their 50s, maybe a stay-at-home mother or caretaker, is there any benefit to not taking Social Security at 62 since the wages are no longer being earned?
Okay. You probably have heard that you need 10 years or 40 quarters of work credits into Social Security. If you have that, then you have your own Social Security benefit. Okay. Then if you're, in this woman's case, if her husband is also working and also gets a Social Security benefit, then you fall into this category of married couples. And it turns out that you have to look at the relationship between the benefits received by each member of the couple. And it could be that it may well be beneficial for someone to wait until they're 66, say full retirement age, or even later, even if your benefit is smaller than the spousal benefit that your husband you'd get from your husband. Again, it depends on the relationship, and the way to determine that relationship is to take a look at your Social Security statement. Okay, on the Social Security statement, there is an amount of money that you would receive at full retirement age. For people retiring today, the full retirement age is 66. So you would take a look at that number, compare it to the number that your husband has at 66. And then you would need to do kind of a calculation as to which strategies you want to use. And the problem here is that for a married couple, there are over 600 possibilities.
Good grief.
And it depends on how long you live. It depends on the relationship between the two benefits. And frankly, there's no easy way to answer that question unless you put it into a computer program and then you see what comes out.
And Social Security doesn't do that for you?
No.
Creating an opportunity for your company?
For my company,
right.
Yeah. My company provides reports. Once we collect information, basically these numbers I just mentioned, we let people make a choice as to how long they think they might live, and then we do a calculation for them, and we provide you with the best possible strategy. And frankly, this is a common situation for me. People say, what should I do? And I say, I'll be honest with you. And I am being honest. I don't know what people should do until you put it into the algorithm.
Let's spend a minute, and I have a lot of calls, but I want to dig into this dilemma a little bit. So,
okay.
Typical situation, say it's a married couple. Mm-hmm. We haven't even gotten into the divorce stuff yet.
Yeah.
You have a married couple, you have a high earner, and you have somebody who earned less.
Right.
And they're nearing retirement age, and you have a number of options. You mentioned the thing, a restricted application.
Right.
What happens if you both just wait till you're 66, retire, and file? Is that good planning?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not, because between the age of 66 and 70, that is, if you wait from 66 to 70, you'll get a 32% higher benefit. Okay. Now, generally speaking, the cost of waiting is you're not getting a benefit between the age of 66 and 70, because you're not claiming at 66, you're claiming at 70.
Right.
Okay. But
I mean, that 4 years of benefits you're foregoing could be $100,000.
Oh, it could be a very large sum of money. But if you carry out one of these strategies where actually one member of the couple gets a spousal benefit from the other member of the couple, then what's happening is you're receiving a spousal benefit while you're waiting. So the cost goes down considerably, right? Because you may not be getting your own benefit, but you're getting this spousal benefit. And when you turn 70, you're going to get a benefit that's 32% higher, okay? So these strategies provide a way to get income during that period between 66 and 70, and your benefit's going up every year you wait.
That was a great explanation.
Well, it's complicated.
I think I got it.
Okay.
Let's talk to Jim in Prince William County. Jim, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Good evening. Partially my comment has been expanded on, but I found out very fortunately that by waiting after my full retirement age of 66 until I reached age 70, by the way, which I was advised by Social Security, that once I reached age 70, I would no longer be receiving that additional percentage each year. So I started collecting last year. But waiting, if you can, is a good way of going as far as collecting Social Security.
Jim, thank you very much for the phone call. You have a satisfied customer there for
Yeah, I'm really
waiting.
pleased to hear that. And he's right also in that after 70, the benefits don't go up. So there's no reason to wait to claim beyond 70. You should claim at 70 if you wait that long.
Most people don't wait. Most people go early, right?
Yes. In fact, most people either claim at 62 or they claim within a year of their retirement. Okay. Now, those are probably not the best strategies. Okay?
But I understand. I mean, first off, somebody could need the money.
Absolutely.
Second, you feel like I've been paying into this thing since I was 16.
Yes.
And would love to see a check going the other direction.
That's right. But patience really pays off in this situation. I think one thing, and I've written about this a little bit, is it seems natural to take Social Security when you retire. But then you should kind of separate that choice, okay, if you can. Again, you need the money to live on. If you don't have that money, you clearly need to take Social Security. But if you have the financial resources, then it's better to essentially go through this algorithm, find the optimal strategy, and detach it from the decision as to when you're going to retire. Because effectively, the rate of return on your money, essentially, by waiting, and we figured out an internal rate of return, is very high, especially with
economics talk there.
Yeah, that's economics talk, yeah. But it's sort of like saying, you know, your bank account is paying you a high interest rate, and that's essentially what's happening.
And it's Uncle Sam. Let's talk to Mary in Allegheny County. Mary, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Yes, my question was, if you're on widower Social Security, would you be able to change over to regular Social Security when you reach 66?
Yes. For widows, the system is very flexible. You can either start with your own benefit and then move to widows, or you can start with widows and then move to your own benefit. And again, the more you delay taking your own benefit, the higher your own benefit will be.
Somebody calls up Social Security with a question like that. How often are they getting the right answer?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think on a question like that, to answer it like I did,
yeah.
I think you get that answer
right.
From them. They may not be able to tell you which year you should claim, but they will tell you that you can move back and forth between the two systems.
Paul in Anne Arundel County. Paul, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for this very interesting program.
You bet.
I'm one of these guys that had some low income for a while and did not contribute the maximum amount to Social Security, but then went on to do pretty well. Because of concern about the economy, when I hit 68, I chose to take my Social Security benefits. I continue to work and pay the maximum amount. And so when they look at the earnings history, I've not paid the maximum amount for the cycles that you were talking about. So the question
is there a way to undo it? Is that where you're going?
Well, the question is, if I continue to add money, if I continue to pay the maximum because I continue to work, my benefits will go up, will they not? And do they go up at the 8% rate that you're talking about?
Paul, we'll get you an answer on the air. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
What Social Security does is it takes your 35 years of best earnings. So in this gentleman's case, if he doesn't have 35 years of high earnings, but he's now has high earnings, then essentially what's probably happening is they're substituting this new income that he's getting because he's still working and dropping out one of the low years in that. So it's not that it's going to go up by 8% a year, but it is going to go up because essentially they're refiguring this calculation that's based on 35 years. In addition to that, also he's going to get the inflation adjustment. So his benefits are going to go up for two reasons. One is there's a recalculation of his basic benefit, and also the inflation adjustment.
I've read there's some situation where you actually suspend, repay your previous benefits and start over. Maybe I shouldn't have asked that.
No, that's a good question, and you used to be able to do that. But Social Security figured out they were giving you an interest-free loan during this period. So I think it's about 2 years ago they stopped that.
Okay.
But you can do that if you have claimed within the last year. So you can retreat for 1 year, but you can't retreat beyond 1 year. So if you claimed, say, last May, and you want to change your mind, you can still do it.
Let's go out to Baltimore City. This is Janet. Thank you for the call. Go ahead.
Yes, my question is, I have a 73-year-old mom, and my dad just passed, and he was 71. Will she receive his Social Security benefits?
She will, if his benefit was the higher of the two. If they both worked, then on the death of the first spouse, then the living spouse receives the higher of the two benefits.
So they were getting his benefit, her benefit. If his benefit had been higher, the widow won't get hers anymore, but she'll get his.
Right at age 72, yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Leroy in Baltimore City, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Question. I understand that the gentleman just said that there was 10 years, 40 quarters. Now, what I've been told, and correct me if I'm wrong, that has changed in the sense that you just don't get 40 quarters by working a quarter. You had to earn X number of dollars during a quarter in order to get credit for that quarter. Is that correct?
Is there a threshold?
I'm not aware of a threshold. It's possible. I think there is some fairly small threshold there. So he may be correct, but I wouldn't want to pronounce on that.
Call Social Security on that one. Are they gone broke? We haven't heard much about it lately, but there are all these projections that the trust fund's going to run out of money.
Right, and the projections, and it's varied from year to year a little bit, but in general, over the past maybe 10 years or so, the projection is that the trust fund will be exhausted in the year somewhere between 2030 and 2035. Now, what does that mean? Well, what's happening here is that over the past 3 decades, there have been more taxes collected than benefits paid out. And over that time period, that money has been accumulated in a trust fund. Now, this was all planned because we could see the demographics. We could see that the baby boom generation was going to retire at this point. So the idea was to collect this money in anticipation of the retirement of the baby boom generation. Now, what we now see is that those monies that were collected over this period of time, and we're starting into a period where we're going to pay more benefits than taxes collected. So what's going to happen is that this is going to be exhausted. This trust fund is going to be exhausted in 2030 or 2035. Once that happens, then the only benefits that can be paid are from the taxes that are collected at that time. So it doesn't mean that people won't receive Social Security benefits if nothing changed. They still receive Social Security benefits, but it's not as much as promised. In fact, it looks like it would be about 75%.
But politically, people think that the government's not going to cut anybody's benefit. We'll see when we get there.
We see when we get there, but there's a couple things to keep in mind. One is there are a number of small changes that could be made that would basically extend this way out into 2070 or something like that. The sooner those changes are made, the less radical the changes have to be.
Let me squeeze in another call here. This is Edgar in Fairfax County, Virginia. Edgar, thank you for calling. Go ahead. Edgar, you're on.
Yes, I am. Okay, yes. The question is, should potential retirees postpone, filing for retirement, considering all the talk that's going on in Congress in reference to cutbacks and cutting benefits, and then, you hear all those political commentators talking about how they're looking to not only, slash the benefits, but also delay the benefits even further. So it's just very iffy. Can you respond on that?
Thank you for the phone call.
I think that question actually is a follow-on to the previous statement. Right. I think people are nervous in part because in the Social Security statement itself, it says we can't guarantee you'll get this because we don't know what Congress is going to do. My own, and this is my own view, this isn't written in granite, is that if you're over the age of 55, and given the political environment in which we live, where Social Security is such an important element here, and older people vote, okay, I think your benefits are really protected if you're over the age of 55. If you're younger than 55, my sense is that you may be affected by some of the changes that there have to be some changes to rebalance the system.
Jeff, we're going to have to leave it there. Jeff Miller is with SocialSecurityChoices.com. Dr. Miller, thank you for being with us.
Again, thank you.
Thank you for joining us for Direct Connection, and have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.